is there such thing as coming down from growth if you're constantly trying to become a better person? There isn't an end goal to becoming better. We're always going to be imperfect. So as long as we're striving to be better than yesterday, then we'll never come down. Essentially, yes, there might be setbacks, but as humans, we tend to only learn from our mistakes. Which, if we do take the time to learn from it, we'll be better than before with added wisdom. And that was basically the question, and asking, in essence, can you come back down if you are on your journey of growth? So I took the time to actually note this down because this was a bit of a deeper question and I had to think about it. But I am going to be going off the top of my head at the same time. So to answer the question, I'm going to answer it straight off the bat. Yes, I do think you have the ability to come back down from the growth that you do. But this is very subjective in terms of in which element the growth is. For example, when I say to your personal growth and your self development, I struggle with that word. So with your self development, when it comes to that, I feel like the growth you make in that and in becoming a better person and growing to be more understanding and empathetic, you will struggle to lose that. But the only scenario which I can think of currently where you will come down from that is when you become more aware of your surroundings or just have the ability to reflect on a deeper level. What you tend to realize is you tend to realize a lot of harsh truths of reality. Excuse the light going off. So so there's a saying, ignorance is bliss, and you kind of come to a better understanding of why that saying exists, because you kind of realize a lot of things about the world, like for example, why certain people are the way they are. You gain a level of empathy and understanding, but at the same time, you kind of feel helpless in the sense that, yeah, you can understand why someone is a certain kind of way, for example, but there's in essence nothing you can really do to help them, because for someone to change and to recognize that and self-reflect within themselves, because no one's going to change from you telling them, because you're just an outsider giving a perspective that's your own. So when it comes to that side of growth, I feel like if you're not strong enough to withstand that reality, or just the truths that will unfold in front of you the further you go down your self-development journey, you might tend to become pessimistic or even nihilistic. So pessimistic is that if you become more of a negative person because you feel just kind of helpless, and I feel like nihilistic is more helplessness. Pessimistic is you kind of just give up, and you you probably just give up too soon, in the sense that you're on your journey of self-development but you don't see the results or something, and then you just become negative towards everything you was doing rather than being consistent and keep on going. So in terms of self-growth, that's the only two ways I can see you falling off, is, like I said, just being exposed to the truths of the world and you not being able to handle that, or just maybe not even handle like that period, as in just in that current period of life, you're probably going through certain scenarios or circumstances where you find it difficult to keep going. So you might take a step back and you might not be as, how do I say, as further along on your journey as you are. But there's nothing to say that you can't go from being at that spot where you might have fallen off to go back on it again. And what I always say is, in any terms of growth in any element, just how muscle memory works for gym, I feel like that's with everything you do in life. And the other sort of growth that we were going to speak about is, for example, gym or any sort of skill that you work on. One thing that my friend told me when it came to doing, for example, pull ups, or just it was something. I had a friend tell me this, and it was, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that just clicked in my head. Certain people just tell you certain things and it just clicks in your head. Like you may have something that a family member told you, a friend, or just someone told you, and it might just stuck with you. And that's one of the things that stuck with me. And I'm like, that is so crazy, because that is so true. If I don't practice my pull ups consistently, I'm going to lose my ability to do as many pull ups as I can. And that same thing applies anywhere in life. So, for example, if I focused very heavily on my ability to speak, right, the way I'm trying to speak now, I'll become better at it. Over time, I'll become very good at it. But then if I stop practicing this, because I'm not using that skill, I'm bound to get a little worse at the skill. That's just normal. And an interesting perspective having this is I feel like there's two avenues you can take when it comes to a skill or just a certain element of life. You can either become a specialist in a certain skill or field, you get paid greatly for it. Yeah, I understand that. Or you can just be better than the average. So like, you can either be 90% good at a couple things or like 95% good at one thing. And in my personal preference, the stance that I'm taking towards life is I'm focusing on certain individual aspects of my life. So, for example, if I build my fitness or my body and physique up to a level that I'm happy with, I'm content with, I will start focusing on another element of my life, but I will maintain my physique at 90%. Because I'd rather have a couple things at 90% than just be very good at one thing. That's my personal preference at the current point in time. Whereas there's certain people that might just go all in the physique. Because once you get to that 95% of anything, that last 5%, like, you're fighting. You're fighting like a very difficult battle for that marginal gain. And for me, I just feel like I'd rather better spend that time learning something new, something that I want to be good at. And I just find that more enjoyable. It might not necessarily be the best thing or way to go about it, but that's what I'm currently doing at the moment. So for the time being, my main two focuses is gym and making content. And I do a couple of things on the other side, but these are my main two avenues of focus. So this is what I'm going to be currently improving in most drastically because that's where most of my attention is going towards. Uh, um, in terms of everything else in that comment from the there isn't an end goal, I practically agree with everything that was said there. As long as we're learning from our mistakes and continuing that personal self development journey, that growth that you're seeking, you're never going to really fall off. Because, like I said, as long as you're focusing in some way, shape, or form of improving, you're golden. Because whatever you've worked on previously, you're going to be able to regain majority of those gains that you made in whatever that is quite easily. For example, I'd been out in the gym for roughly 3 months, so that was quite a long period of time. I basically went down to like a very light weight, which I hadn't seen in a long time. I lost about 10 kilos. I'm up 5 kilos from that point in time. My strength level is roughly the same, if not stronger. And I'd personally say I'm probably looking the best I have in my entire life so far. But I still want to pursue this and I want to push it even further. I want to be able to get to as close to my genetic potential as I can. And obviously, that is quite vague. But that's a journey that I'm on, and that's something I'm focusing on. And this is another thing that I'm focusing on. A couple of other things that I did have noted down for this is when it comes to growth and then the setbacks, the element of which your growth you're focusing on may be affected by any form of thing that you view as a setback if it drastically changes your ability to achieve a certain level in that field of skill or work. For example, content creation. But this is, I feel like you can call this an excuse. For example, if I really want to improve my ability to speak, but then I drop a barbell on my throat and I lose my voice, like my future expectations for being able to make this sort of content would no longer exist. Like you could call that a setback, but you can always find a way around it at this point. But that's just some sort of some sort of example that I'm trying to give to you guys. I'm not sure if you understand what I'm saying. But then the thing is, right? I always preach your ability to adapt to change is very important because of this. Because I feel like as long as you have a growth mindset, you will always be open to doing things a different way to make things work. And as long as you're willing to do it in any way, shape, or form that gets the job done, it's just like how everything else works in life. When you want something, you might not get exactly what you wanted, but you're going to get something that's not very far off either. Like the whole saying of aim for the stars, land on the moon. That kind of vibe. For example, with my car, I do not want this car specifically, but I'm quite happy where I'm at. I'm quite happy where I'm at because it turned out in ways I didn't imagine. That's just how life is. You can't be stuck on getting your specific way because God's gonna make things work for you, and it might not be exactly what you envisioned, but it might even be better. Just gotta stay grateful for what you got and just keep, honestly, just keep going. We're all on this growth journey together. We're all gonna be imperfect. Might as well try to be the best that we can be while we're here. That's all I really have to say for this video. Quite a deep topic, but yeah. If you guys have any similar sort of questions or anything that you'd like me to speak about or just hear my thoughts about, drop a comment down below and I will speak about it. Let you know what I think. Hope you guys enjoyed this little talk. If you guys want to see my face on your feed, subscribe. If you don't, I'm still going to be uploading. You're going to see my face regardless. I'll catch you guys in my next video.